Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 3. We're going to be looking at a scene that is during a storm, a pretty freaky, serious storm that is happening the night before Caesar is killed by the conspirators. And what we have is Casca wandering through the streets, and he comes across Cassius and has a conversation, and Cassius uses this time to win Casca over to his side. So we start off in a street, thunder and lightning. Enter from the opposite side Casca and Cicero, who is another senator. Cicero says, "Good even, Casca. Brought you Caesar home. Why are you breathless, and why stare you so?" So Casca, we can know by this, looks a little freaked out and thrown off. Casca says, "Are you not moved when all the sway of the earth shakes like a thing unfirm? O Cicero, I've seen tempests when the scolding winds have rived the knotty oaks, and I've seen the ambitious ocean swell and rage and foam to be exalted with the threatening clouds, but never till tonight, never till now, did I go through a tempest dropping fire. Either there is a civil strife in heaven, or else the world, too saucy with the gods, incenses them to send destruction." So he's describing the storm that to him is the most intense storm he's seen before. So he's seen tempest is another word for storm. Winds have pulled oaks, rived the knotty oaks means split or ripped apart trees. He's seen the ocean be pretty crazy in terms of its breaking and hitting against the shore. But until tonight, he has not seen, I guess, lightning hitting the ground. What else would dropping fire would be except for lightning hitting the ground? So he says there's either a civil strife in heaven, which is a war in heaven, or the world is too rude or cheeky or bold with the gods, and so this has made the gods mad. Incenses means to have made angry. And the gods are punishing the earth. Cicero, why saw you anything more wonderful? A common slave, you know him well by sight, held up his left hand, which did flame and burn like 20 torches joined, and yet his hand, not sensible of fire, remained unscorched. So somehow saw a slave they know whose hand was on fire, but it wasn't burned. So we don't really know what that means. Was it at a distance and it looked like he was hit by lightning or something like that? We don't really know what that means. Besides, I had not since put up my sword. Against the Capitol I met a lion, who glazed upon me, stared at me, and went surly by without annoying me. So he was walking in the streets near the Capitol, and there was a lion walking by that saw him and just kept walking. So perhaps this was because of the storm. A lion escaped from a coliseum where it was being kept and was out wandering the streets. And there were drawn upon a heap 100 ghastly women, transformed with their fear, who swore they saw men all in fire walking up and down the streets. So there was a group of women who were freaked out because they thought they saw men who were on fire. And again, we don't really know what this was. Perhaps that from the lightning was striking and it looked like men were on fire walking around. So some illusion or some scene where these women thought they saw something that was supernatural. And yesterday, the bird of night did sit. The bird of night would have been an owl, right? The bird that flies at night. Did sit even at noonday upon the marketplace, hooting and shrieking. So there was a confused owl that was out in the daytime, kind of bothered up in the trees near the marketplace. So maybe the storm had thrown this animal off. We don't know. When these prodigies, which is an extraordinary thing, a strange thing happening, do so conjointly meet, they happen all at the same time, let not men say, these are their reasons, they are natural. For I believe they are portentous or bad omens, portentous things unto the climate they point upon. So he sees all of these things, or he's heard about these things happening, and he's like, that's not natural. These didn't just happen. This must mean something. So his mind is primed to think that there's a supernatural cause for these strange things happening in the storm. He's warned by Cicero, indeed, it is a strange disposed time, but men may construe things after their fashion. In other words, people can twist things or turn things the way they want to, clean from the purpose of the things themselves. So they might interpret something way different than what it actually means. Comes Caesar to the Capitol tomorrow. So he's changing the subject and asking a question. The interesting thing is later on in the scene, when actually he talks with Cassius, Cassius does interpret this storm a certain way to suit his own desires. He doth, for he bid Antonius send word to you he would be there tomorrow. Good night then, Casca, this disturbed sky is not to walk in. Farewell, Cicero. So they part. Enter Cassius. Who's there? A Roman. Casca, by your voice. Your ear is good. Cassius, what night is this? A very pleasing night to honest men. So Cassius has possibly overheard some of what was being said, but he's trying to spin it like, this is a nice night if you're on the right side of things, if you're an honest person. Whoever knew the heavens to menace so? Menace means to like lash out. Those that have known the earth so full of faults. For my own part, I have walked about the streets, submitting me unto the perilous night, and thus unbraced. In other words, I've gone out with nothing to fear tonight because I see what's wrong in the world. Casca, as you see, have bared my bosom to the thunderstone, meaning a thunderbolt, and when the cross-blue lightning seemed to open the breast of heaven, I did present myself, even the aim and very flash of it. So I have so much of a clear conscience, I actually walked out and was like, dared the thunder and lightning, or dared the lightning to strike me. That's how little I have to fear from this storm. But wherefore did you so much tempt the heavens? It is the part of men to fear and tremble, when the most mighty gods by tokens send us such dreadful heralds to astonish us. So Casca's kind of floored by this, right? He's like, you can't just walk around and tempt the gods to strike you down, right? It's our job to be fearful of these things. Cassius responds, you are dull, Casca, and those sparks of life that should be in a Roman you do want, or else you use not. So a true Roman should be using more of their brain in this situation. You look pale and gaze and put on fear and cast yourself in wonder to see the strange impatience of the heavens. So you're acting like a chicken when you see all these things happening. But if you would consider the true cause, now hear how he interprets what's happening for Casca. Why all these fires? Why all these gliding ghosts? Why birds and beasts from quality and kind, they act differently than they normally should. Why old men, fools, and children calculate. In other words, they make predictions. This is what's happening here. Why all these things change from their ordinance, their regular behavior, their natures and preformed faculties to monstrous quality. Again, these things that are supposed to be some way have now and are acting unnaturally, right? Why you shall find that heaven hath infused them with these spirits. In other words, something supernatural is going on that's making this happen. It's not what Casca wanted to hear, right? To make them instruments of fear and warning unto some monstrous state. Now could I, Casca, name to thee a man most like this dreadful night, that thunders, lightens, opens graves, and roars as doth the lion in the Capitol. So he's pointing to someone that is like this storm, right? That is dreadful and ferocious and does, unbelievable damage. A man no mightier than myself, thyself or me, in personal action, yet prodigious grown and fearful as these strange eruptions are. So he's no better than us, yet he's grown to this great degree and has caused fear throughout the land. Casca, 'tis Caesar that you mean, is it not, Cassius? There is a big step for you. No duh. That's exactly who he's talking about. Let it be who it is. So he doesn't want to say who it is right away. He's kind of playing this up. Again, he wants to be sure of Casca. You can't just name Caesar as this horrible, horrible force if you are talking to someone who is loyal to Caesar, because you would get reported and probably jailed and killed. If Romans now have thews, muscles, and limbs like to their ancestors, but woe the while. Oh, no, that means, oh man, the times are so bad. We're not true Romans. Our fathers' minds are dead, and we are governed with our mother's spirits. Our yoke and sufferance show us womanish. All right, so there's some sexism going on in here, right? So this is just like cried like a sick girl before. Now he's saying we used to be strong men of Rome, but now we're more like the wives, and we are taking upon this slave-like conditions, and it's showing us to have no real fight. Indeed, they say the senators tomorrow mean to establish Caesar as a king, and he shall wear his crown by sea and land in every place save here in Italy. So people are aware that Caesar very well could be king. Cassius responds to the news of Caesar's possible kingship and dictatorship. I know where I will wear this dagger then. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. In other words, I don't have to be under his rule. Worst case scenario is I can kill myself with my dagger. Therein, ye gods, you make the weak most strong. Therein, ye gods, you tyrants do defeat. Nor stony tower, no walls of beaten brass, no airless dungeon, nor strong links of iron can be retentive to or confine the strength of spirit. But life, being weary of these worldly bars, never lacks power to dismiss itself. So in other words, I can be free because I have always the power to take my own life. Pretty desperate here, right? Surely showing the lengths he's trying to go to show how horrible and bad it is for Rome to change in the direction it is going under Caesar. If I know this, know all the world besides, that part of tyranny that I do bear, I can shake off at pleasure. So I can, escape the tyranny of this government, of this man, through my own life being taken. Casca, so can I. So every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel his captivity. We all can do that if we're that desperate. And why should Caesar be a tyrant then? Poor man, I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees the Romans are but sheep. He were no lion, we're not Romans' hinds. A hind is a deer, right? So why should we let him? He wouldn't be this and then he starts blaming the Roman people. He knows from their earlier conversation that Casca has no respect for the Roman people and how wishy-washy they are, how much they change alliances and just applaud Caesar and do whatever he wants. So now he's attacking the commoner of Rome, which he knows that Casca hates. Those that with haste will make a mighty fire begin it with weak straws. So Caesar is manipulating the situation and the common people to make his power grow at an alarming rate with weak straws, which would be typical Roman people. What trash is Rome? What rubbish and what offal? Offal is garbage. When it serves for the base matter, meaning inferior materials, to illuminate or light up so vile a thing as Caesar. So Rome is despicable, horrible, lowly to actually light up. They have to be lower than low to give any light to someone as horrible as Caesar. So he's really come out strong now against Caesar. But oh grief, where how fast led me! I perhaps speak this before a willing bondman. Then I know my answer must be made. So he's like, oh grief, oh man, I said too much. What if I'm in front of someone who's loyal to Caesar? But I am armed, and dangers are to me indifferent. So if I made a mistake saying this to you, Casca, I'm ready to fight to the death. You speak to Casca, and to such a man that is no fleering telltale. Hold my hand, be factious for redress of all these griefs, and I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes farthest. All right, I'm not a tattletale, so let's shake on it, and we are going to come together, and we will do what it takes to make this right. Cassius says, there's a bargain made. So they're now down. They're now allied together. Now know you, Casca, I'm giving you information. I have already moved some certain of the noblest minded Romans to undergo with me an enterprise of honorable, dangerous consequence. So I have other people involved, and we are going to do this important work. And I do know by this they stay for me in Pompey's porch. So they're waiting somewhere. I think it was a theater that was named after Pompey. For now, this fearful night, there is no stirrer walking in the streets, and the complexion of the element, in other words, the conditions outside, in favors like the work we have in hand. So this storm favors what we're doing. No one's out and about. We are able to move on what we're doing. The work we have in hand, most bloody, fiery, and most terrible. All right, so we have some serious business we have to take. Now Cinna, who's a fellow conspirator, comes in at this point. Stand close a while, for here comes one in haste. Someone's coming. 'Tis Cinna, I know him by his gait. Gait is the way you walk. He is a friend. Cinna, why haste you so? To find out you. Who's that? Metellus Cimber? That would be another conspirator. No, it is Casca, one incorporate. He's unified with us in our attempts. Am I not stayed for, Cinna? In other words, aren't people waiting for me? I'm glad on it. Yes. What a fearful night is this? There's 2 or 3 of us have seen strange sights. So confirmation again, there's some weird, Shakespeare's bringing in that supernatural element to this as well. Am I not stayed for? Tell me. Yes, you are. O Cassius, if you could but win the noble Brutus to our party. So they all want Brutus. Remember how well respected and reasoned and logical Brutus is held to be. So they want to win him. Cassius responds, be you content. Good Cinna, take this paper and look, you lay it in the praetor's chair. A praetor was a Roman judge. So these are the papers that Cassius was talking about earlier that he was going to write and let Brutus find that would kind of back up that other people are saying exactly what Cassius is saying. Put it in the praetor's chair where Brutus may find it. And throw this in at his window. Set this up with wax upon old Brutus' statue. All this done, repair to Pompey's porch where you shall find us. Is Decius, Brutus, and Trebonius there? So he's going to deliver these papers for Cassius. All but Metellus Cimber, and he's gone to seek you at your house. Well, I will hie and so bestow these papers you bade me. So he's going to do that. That done, repair to Pompey's theater. So Cinna leaves, and it leaves Casca and Cassius alone again. Come, Casca, you and I will yet E-R-E means before, day, see Brutus at his house. 3 parts of him is ours already, and the man entire, upon the next encounter, yields him ours. Remember, Cassius did not know if he'd won Brutus over yet or not, so he knows that if they go see him again, they'll be able to pull him in to the conspiracy. Casca, oh, he sits high in all the people's hearts. So in other words, he's well respected. And that which would appear offense in us, in other words, as a crime, as wrong in us, his countenance is his face, your face, how you look on your face, or your own person, so his support. His countenance, like richest alchemy is like magic or kind of forming a chemical reaction and blending things together. His countenance, like richest alchemy, will change to virtue and to worthiness. So if we were just doing this, it would seem bad. But when we have Brutus involved, the respect that people have for him and how esteemed he is, it's going to kind of change the way things look, and people will look at what we do differently, that as we take out Caesar, it's going to be looked at as potentially positive rather than negative. Him and his worth and our great need of him, you have right well conceded or understood. You got it, Casca. That's why we need him. Let us go, for it is midnight, and ere day we will wake him and be sure of him. So they're now going to head over before dawn to Brutus's house to try to win him over. And that's the end of Act 1.